Gary Miller and the best mix of the 70s, 80s, and today on 100 Key FM.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Radio Days with Gary Music Miller. I'm Dave Black, your co-host. This is Gary Music Miller, longtime voice of WKEE here in Huntington. I'm sure if you've been alive for the last 50 or 60, 70, 80, 100 years, you've probably heard him at one time or another coming across your radio dial. So we've got a pretty bog standard kind of a program today, and we're going to do our viewer mail and video comments. We haven't done those in a few months,
right?
So it's good to catch up and do that. We've also Gary's got a quiz for me. We've also
sort of a quiz, sort of a story.
Asking me what day it is a quiz for me.
Yeah.
And I also
I've got kind of a story about this band.
Also, we have another masterpiece lyrics segment. You don't want to miss that, so stay tuned till the end.
Stay tuned to the end.
So you got anything you want to talk about first, Gary?
Just the regular, the fact that we are in the West Virginia Museum of Radio and Technology at 1640 Florence Avenue. And we are happy to be here. Friendly folks have greeted us here at the door. I want to thank our new subscribers. We have a few. And thank you, whether you're new or old. We did get a few comments, and you're going to be talking about those comments in regards to our last program. We had Paul Urban on, who brought a lot of memories to me, woke up memories I didn't even know I had. And he actually predates me. I started at Key in 78. I started in radio in 71, and he went back to the 60s. So, Paul, I thank you again. It was great having you here. And
that was a good program.
It really was. And it made me realize how many people like history. And today, my contribution to the show has a little bit to do with history. And really want to thank you, first-time listeners. And we hope if you are a first-time listener, you'll subscribe. You'll feel like subscribing, and you'll like and share our program as well. We are all about nostalgia. We talk about radio back in the day. We especially lean on 70s and 80s, although we'll talk about the 60s. We'll talk about the 90s and 2000s if you need to. We talk about radio DJs. We're going to try to get as many of them as we can find, as are still around,
that are left
to join us. And we talk about solo acts, groups, albums, singles, songs, any memories that you might have. And I've had a couple of people come up to me in the last few months and say, I won lottery tickets from you. I won pizza from you. I won Kings Island tickets from you. And I never got a chance to say thanks. And that means a lot to me. It's always nice to have somebody say, you sounded great on the radio. You did a good job. We enjoyed listening to you on the radio. But it really means a lot to me if I've affected somebody's life in some way or another. And I actually had, as I mentioned some time ago, somebody told me I was the reason that he got married, because I sent out a dedication to him on the air. So,
way to go there, Casey.
Anything that has to do with radio, music, it's nostalgia, and you found the right channel, and we hope you will subscribe. We would love to see you.
Now, these
subscribe.
people you said may have won some lottery tickets. Did any of them say they won anything?
I don't know. They did. They said, "I want some lottery tickets."
The
from you."
kickback.
I should have asked, "Did you win anything?"
The kickback should have happened. I'm
usually
sorry.
the 10 lottery tickets yielded maybe $2. So yeah,
it was found money.
yeah, exactly. So, but
remember also that coming up soon, you've got this thing here.
yes,
And that's up in your alley, your wheelhouse.
When you come to some people wonder why we don't do this more often, and because we come when they're open. We are in the confines of the West Virginia Museum of Radio and Broadcasting, and it's just filled with radio memorabilia, television memorabilia, all kinds of stuff. It's just an unbelievable way to spend an afternoon. They're open on Saturdays and Sundays, so that's usually when you'll find us here. And you can actually go down the hall next to us and see pictures on one side or the other of radio people you didn't know what they looked like, or TV people you do remember. And of course, there are some major superstars in the Hall of Fame, including Soupy Sales, Peter Marshall, who just, I believe, passed, didn't he?
Recently.
Conchata Ferrell. Who am I missing?
Dagmar.
Dagmar's here. Soupy.
She's not literally
Peter,
here, but she's in the Hall of Fame.
She's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Her bust is.
And I know
there.
Don Knotts. Who can forget Don Knotts? Don Knotts is in the West Virginia Broadcasting Hall of Fame. So we invite you to come by, spend your day, look through all the exhibits, and visit our Hall of Fame hall, I guess. It's an actual hall.
It's a hallway of fame.
It's a hallway of fame, yeah.
But so they've got coming up. So we're recording this in early September, and they have got coming up their Hall of Fame inductions for 2024. Yes. And I'm going to go down the list of people who are being inducted. You may know some of these, you may not. You may remember them, you may not. But if not, hey, you'll know them now. All right, we have Todd Botcher or Boucher. If I butcher that name, I am very sorry. I'm giving you 3 pronunciations where I'll maybe hit it right on one of them. I'm not too familiar with Todd. Are you familiar with Todd?
I'm not, and I must admit that I'm not real familiar with radio people and TV people that are from outside this area. Okay. But outside the Huntington, Ashland, Ironton area. But the Hall of Fame includes the entire state. Right. So I apologize if I don't know you. You probably don't know me either.
All right. So, next on the list is Wayne Boone.
Okay.
Wayne Boone. Daniel's relation, I think, maybe.
All right.
Channel 3's Kathy Brown from many years ago.
Kathy, I remember her very well. Yeah.
Jeff Jenkins from Metro News fame. He's going to be inducted. Scott Nolte, Nick's relation, I think.
I'm not sure about Scott, but
and Woodrow Woods is also being.
Yes, I've heard of Woody, and welcome to all the new inductees to the induction ceremony. I believe is set to be held September 1st.
It's October, isn't it?
2020. Oh, you're right. It's September's already passed.
Yes, I would.
You're working with a guy with brain injuries.
Well, this is retroactive stuff.
Yeah, I had 2 brain surgeries 2 years ago. Those of you that have watched the show know. And I'll substitute names and all kinds of things. So, I believe October 1st. I was inducted, interestingly enough, on Halloween night.
Yes, you were.
October 31st.
I was here.
2015, and Dave was here to support me. So, and bring my water.
Yeah. Okay. What we're going to do right now is go. I almost pulled a Justin Wilson.
I know what we're going to do right now.
Did right now is told you a story. Now we're going to go over some of the emails that have accumulated over the past few months that people have sent in, remarking or making remarks about the show or anything they'd like. To be frank with you, so I'm going to put on my old guy glasses because it's getting tougher to see things anymore. So let me start off. Here's one from a fellow by the name of Charles Patrick. He says, "Hey, Gary and Dave, just going to take a minute and say I've been watching Radio Days on YouTube. It's been a real brain teaser testing me on what I remember that happened in real time as I was growing up. I love the show and hope you keep doing it. Gary, we all need to get together sometime. Love, Charlie, Sonia, and the girls."
Yeah, Charles and Sonia used to bowl with me.
Oh, well.
They were, which was not to say that much because I needed all the help I could get.
Okay, our next one comes from George Ingram. Not sure if you remember George.
Not.
Anyway, he says, "Hi, Gary. You may have missed out on previous USA discographies sent out to the group, Chuck, Paul, George, Charles, etc. I have thus sent them for your interest. The Valley/Seasons ones aren't complete from 2002 to current with regard to the shop/online sales releases for various artist albums that feature a solo Valley song. This is still a work in progress, alas. I am just completing the UK discography, then returning to the others. Phew. The UK fans I correspond with also get these discographies. I assume your scan went okay and that you are not have not any more serious problems at all.
That's very
Enjoy the rest of the summer. Best wishes, George Ingram."
Thank you, George. And I'm lucky to say that 2 weeks ago, I was admitted to the hospital. They thought that I had just some regular drainage coming out of my nose, which turned out to be a possibility of remnants of my brain operations I mentioned a little while ago. They thought I might be losing some brain fluid. So they kept me overnight, and I'm happy to say that that was not the case, but it's just normal.
No, they thought it was water on your nose, but it's not.
But it's not, yeah.
I can't help myself.
Yeah.
Okay, next one comes from a longtime viewer, Frank Carter.
Yeah.
He says, "What a blessing it was to have someone with the historical knowledge of Paul on your show. Someone who could fill in details of times before Gary Music Miller. Being someone fascinated by history, I could have listened to him for another hour or more. So happy he was able to provide you with a recording of your glory days on the radio. I love learning about the history of Huntington before my time and even before your time. More stuff like this, please." Thank you, Frank.
Absolutely, and we'll touch on a little bit of history today, but it won't be local history. It'll be music history. So I'll try to do as many of those as we can.
Now, Paul Urbans, who was our last guest,
yes,
and a fantastic guest he was, he sent a message that was posted on a forum that he belongs to. And if I can look, this is a long one. This is an opus. It's from WLS Clark is what the name was on it. So this says, "Lots of fun here, guys. Me and my bro Mixer Raj's dad was an engineer in 1947 for WGEE in Cedartown, Georgia, and would also turn the transmitter on and off, and I even have a log from his time there. The station was a little shack with small antenna for tower. In flood periods, he had to get the transmitter out by rowboat.
Wow.
He graduated from Minneapolis Radio School in 1937 out of high school, which led to his being in World War II as a radio serviceman for warplanes and working on planes, radios overseas while the Allies were fighting the Nazis. His early schooling may have kept him alive and away from the actual hand-to-hand combat, allowing him to come back home, get married, and have us kids. In turn, we 4 boys all became radio nuts too. Dad was a ham since early 30s and also had a wall of QSL cards like you spoke of.
Yeah.
I used to shut KZUM FM down at night following along with BSNR Richards' first year radio show in the 1980s. I had a license, but just third class. I've done a few top 40 type shows of 60s style in the past year for WFMU FM, the oldest freeform style station in the country. They say 58 was the year they started. We visited then automated KOMA studios in 1963, and you might know that those IBM cards with holes punched out were what WIBM radio used as their backing for the radio surveys in the 1960s.
Okay.
There's a thousand other words in here. This is it's pretty much an opus.
Yeah.
And to conclude everything, this is like Davidson's, Woolworth's, and Dodge City had a Hot 100 posted in the 60s, and I would go in and write down abbreviated info from those weekly.
And he actually had a few of those countdowns
phonologs
with him.
Loved them.
Yeah.
I have many from the 60s to 80s. Paul, I hope you can share my comments with Gary. I enjoyed all your conversation. Thanks for the memories, guys, and those who took time to read my jargon response. WLS Clark.
And Paul, you were much appreciated by several people.
So let me go down this list. These are a list of comments that we had from some of the videos.
All right.
And this goes back. This goes back a bit. If I make sure that I have the right things here. Okay. The first one comes from Leslie Carter, 7406. Gary, you never mentioned my emails. I think he's not one to toot his own horn, but I just love him. Do you do the thumb trick, Gary? Pull your thumb apart. LOL. I always loved when you did that. Keep it up, boys. I always enjoy the show, and I love seeing pictures of Gary has socked away of everyone he's met over the years.
Thank you, Leslie. Leslie is a relative of my wife's, and I considered her my niece growing up. So, Leslie, great to hear from you.
And we have a few here from another longtime viewer and a friend of the program is Doug Smith. He says, oh my, let me stick with top 40. I actually remembered a few of those country songs. Hope and I saw Don McLean in concert in Marietta a few years ago, and he did the Roy Orbison cover of Crying. He also shared that the artist Drake had sampled... Don
McLean?
Yeah.
Don McLean's version of Crying. Another one of those records I went to the wall for. I had them play it, and we did play it. He
also shared that the artist Drake had sampled American Pie in one of his songs that hit it big.
Wow.
Sans permission. End result, Don gets paid every time the song is played.
Good.
He said he hopes more rappers steal his music. It's very lucrative.
Yeah.
And that was the smart thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this was from the Rick Caleb show. He said, yes, a world of our own was good song for sure. I remember Talkback.
Mm-hmm.
And from the 1974 Worst Year in Music show, he said, hi, Gary, it was me, Doug Smith. Not to worry about the memory. I understand how that works. A fun show. 74 was a strange year in music for sure.
Yes.
Okay. From the show we did called Potpourri, which is just a little bit of this and that we threw in there. Love your masterpiece lyrics segment. Never realized the words to Mama Told Me Not to Come were so funny when spoken. Puts it in a whole new light. Love the show. Well, thank you, That comes from Brandon's Papa.
Great.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Doug Smith sends one from the show we did called Brass.
Mm-hmm.
That was about all the stuff. And it says, Gary, being a trombone player, I am really into bands with horns. I was thinking of a story I heard from Jimmy Pankow from Chicago. As you were talking about BST and Spinning Wheel, the boys of Chicago were all living in a house in LA writing music and playing gigs, getting ready to record what would become Chicago Transit Authority.
Right.
They played a little of what they were doing for the producer, who may have been Gershow, who took their idea of a rock band with horns as a voice to Canada, pulled together some studio musicians and a blues singer, and they wrote and produced an album in '68, beating Chicago to the punch by a few months. That lit a fire for Chicago, and they released CTA a few months later. It was, of course, a monster album, and Chicago was born. I heard Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire in concert in Columbus a few years ago, and it was an amazing show. I play with the Greater Huntington Symphonic Band, Jazz Band. Over the past couple of years, we have played Get It On, 25 or 6-4, Vehicle, among others, at our concerts. I love music with brass. By the way, William Shatner is going to be at the Paramount in September, so here's your big chance. One you didn't mention is certainly more pop than rock was Casey and the Sunshine Band. Had some nice brass in their songs. Fun show. But what was in the bottle Dave was drinking? You all is off the rails. Until next time, Doug. Thank you very much, Doug. And what was in the bottle?
What was the band he mentioned leading up to Chicago?
Well, let me see.
Did he mention a band leading up to Chicago? You know, the only reason I bring them up is because in '67, I bought my first single, and my very first record I bought was by a group called the Buckinghams, and the song was called Don't You Care, and they featured brass throughout their music, and they actually were led by James William Grecio into the band that ended up forming into Chicago. So James was, it was funny, Buckingham's had 5 top 5 singles, 1 number 1, and I believe they outsold just about everybody that year.
This doesn't list a name for it. Just said a bunch of studio musicians and a singer got together and did that.
Well,
okay, let's go. There's one more from Doug. It's from the Heart video that we did.
Yeah.
Heard someone in the music biz once say, tongue-in-cheek, that he was an overnight success after working for 20 years. My mom's friend had an Elvis room, including her ticket from that show.
Who are we talking about?
That was from the Heart show. They were talking about.
Heart was an overnight success?
No, he said he heard someone in the music biz once say tongue-in-cheek that he was an overnight success after working 20 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And his mom's friend had an Elvis room, and she kept Elvis there for a while.
Interesting.
Okay, another friend of the channel who watches and tells me about it all the time is David Mills, one of my old school chums and buddies. I always thought it was very rude of Elvis to die after so many people in Huntington purchased tickets to see him. He's saying this comically.
Yeah.
You guys have a far better memory than I do, but I seem to recall back when Elvis died that the local promoters of the show were, of course, legally required to give people their money back for the tickets they'd purchased. In exchange, those who returned their show tickets were to be given their money back, as well as some type of souvenir packet honoring Elvis. My understanding is that very, very few people actually asked for their money back, preferring instead to keep the original tickets they'd purchased from the Elvis show.
Interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it very well could.
I've seen a few of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are notes from the Paul Urban show. This is from S. Urbans. I figure that's probably a relative.
Possibly.
This is a great interview. The first song I recall on the radio is from 99.7 WDJX, the sign by Ace of Base. But most memorable radio station activity is with winning an audio cassette of the Cranberries. Everybody else is doing it.
Wow.
So why can't we, in 1993, and going to the station to get it. So thank you for that message. And
And I'd love to hear from more of you who actually won prizes.
Yeah.
And maybe picked them up at Key.
Yeah.
And maybe ran into me into Hall.
And our last message is from old radio person Jerry Crabtree.
Yeah.
He was on WTCR in July 1971, WCAK in 1972, etc. License dated March 21st, 1969. So that's been a while back, hasn't it?
That's been a while back, yeah. And I became not music, but news director at WTCR in 1976. So I got to know Terry Collins / Jerry Crabtree.
Yeah.
Definitely water.
Yeah.
Okay. We got most of the mail taken care of?
Yep, we've got everything taken care of at this point.
Well, I have something, for lack of anything else, to call it 70s stories. And both Dave and I are interested in music from the 70s. And I'm going to mention the name of an act, and I want you to tell me. Dave and I don't go over this in advance, so I'm going to mention the name of an act, and one song may come to mind, one song may not.
Right.
Two songs may come to mind. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'm going to get.
The name of the band is the Climax Blues Band. And you're looking, it's...
The wheels are turning.
The wheels are turning, the file cards are going. Climax Blues Band.
I'm thinking that's it. I'm drawing a blank here.
Drawing a blank. You'll remember it when I tell you about it. Let's go back a little bit. If we don't mind, we have some history buffs. Frank mentioned liking history. Go back to 1969, and I'm going to be the first to admit that I don't really know the differences between blues music, jazz music, pop music. You might have a line on what blues music actually is, but in the 60s, there was a group called the Blues Magoos. They were a big group. The Blues Magoos. 1980s, of course, you had the Blues Brothers, and in 1990s, Blues Traveler.
Yeah.
Runaround was their big song. So I really don't, and somebody can write in and tell me what exactly blues music is, but that has to do with the story I'm going to tell.
I think it's more they sing about the hard luck they've had and the bad things that have happened to them. Why that's what makes them blue, and that's what makes the music blue. And
yeah, could very well be. Everybody's heard singing the blues by some old guy back in the 50s and 60s. In 1969, 6 guys from the UK, United Kingdom, England, not University of Kentucky. But they were from 6 guys from the UK formed a band called the Climax Chicago Blues Band. They released a few albums that did moderately well, not really well, but they did well with blues fans. And in 1972, probably because there was another band successfully using the name Chicago, they dropped Chicago from the name of their band and they became the Climax Blues Band. They went on and recorded a few more albums. And in 1977, their record label came to them and said, guys, we've had fun. We've released half dozen, 6, 8, maybe 10 albums. But you've never had a hit record. You've never had a hit record. You need to come up with, to continue things going for you guys, you need to come up with a radio-friendly song. And what I mean by radio-friendly is what it means, what it sounds like. A song that may be a blues song, but it appealed to radio.
A little different message and about 3.5 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So they write this song, and it basically is about traveling. And it mentions traveling from town to town. And in fact, one of the big, if I do this line, I'm not a singer, but the line is, kept on searching through the night, looking for a sign,
right.
Something like that. Huh?
Couldn't get it right.
Couldn't get it right. That's the song. Kept on searching for a sign in the middle of the night. Couldn't get it right. Couldn't get it right. 1977, they did exactly what the record company told them to do. Mm-hmm. They released a song, and radio grabbed onto it. And the Climax Blues Band, after several albums, had their first hit song.
Wow.
And that made them, in many eyes, a one-hit wonder. Because they weren't able to follow it up with another hit that big. That song went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Wow.
And ended up top 40, I believe, for the year-end review. So you got to fast forward now to 1981. 81 was a special year for me. There was a lot of music out in 81 that I liked, that didn't make it, that sort of made it. 81 was the year I got married, so I was a little, what's the word I want to use?
Drunk?
Not romantic.
Oh, no.
A little drunk. A little, whatever the word is, heartfelt. I was looking at, I heard love songs that year, and I thought, wow, and in 81, pardon me, in 81, the record, by the way, the name of the album in 77 was Gold Plated. If you have that album, couldn't get it right. But in 81, they're putting together an album called Flying the Flag. And they're doing this album, Flying the Flag, typical blues album. But they needed one more track to complete what they felt they needed to, and the record company felt they needed to put out an entire album. So they needed one more song, and they just didn't have it. And Derek Holt, who is one of the original members of Climax Blues Band, and was a songwriter, was a vocalist, Derek Holt pops up and says, you know what? I have a song that I've written for my wife, and it's not going to fly. It's not a blues song. It's just not going to fly. The record company says, we want to hear it anyway, because we need another song. So Derek Holt puts the musicians together, does the vocals, pretty much does a song on his own. And he talks about the song, He talks in the song about this woman entering his life, and she had what it takes, so I made her my wife, he says. And the next lyric is, since then, marrying her, since then, I've never looked back. It's almost like living a dream. Is this coming back to you at all?
Ooh, I love
Ooh, I love you.
Yeah.
You can't very well come up with a very more straightforward love song.
That is the song that came to my mind first when you mentioned
Is it really?
Climax. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, sure is.
Well, the song was their second biggest hit song ever. Went to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100. Everybody loved the song. The producers, the record company, the ugly thing called radio. I heard the song and fell in love with it. And of course, it might have been because it was at that time of my life when I was falling in love with the person I'd end up spending the next 43 plus years with. I Love You was liked by everybody except the group. The group said, this is not a blues song. This is not a blues song. This is a sappy ballad love song. And the record company went against them. Everybody went against them. And in essence, the song ended up almost, if not totally, breaking the group up. Because Holt had this, had the song. He wrote the song, he created the song, and they decided to include it on Flying the Flag, which was their umpteenth album. And Flying the Flag was released. And that song, out of everything on the album, that song grabbed everybody's attention. And so Climax Blues Band had their, I'm sitting here needing a drink. That song ended up being their second biggest hit ever. Couldn't get it right, went to number 3. I Love You went to number 12. And Derek Holt says to this day, in every interview I've ever seen with him, pardon me, if the band had stayed together and they were allowed to tour the United States, that song could have very well been a number 1 song for them.
No problem.
It was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
It said everything you could possibly say. And as I said, he wrote it for his wife.
Yeah.
And it was not going to be included on that album.
Wow.
But after that song, it became a worldwide hit. And it did become the number 12.
Yeah.
And ended up, I believe, top 50 for the year, 1981. But it ended the band, sort of.
Oh.
So, and then he never got to play that song in America.
Wow.
He never got to play that song in America. I heard a story, I don't know whether this is true or not, but 10 years later, we've told this kind of story before with Martin Page. He ended up in a karaoke bar, and he got to sing the song.
Wow.
Karaoke. But he never got to perform it in front of a live audience. And in fact, the United States Climax Blues Band tour was canceled. So that's my story about the Climax Blues Band, which I found the whole story pretty interesting.
Well, that's his story, and he's sticking to it.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So some of the facts may be twisted a little bit, but that's basically what happened.
Don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
And that's right. You'll remember Climax Blues Band couldn't get it right now.
Okay.
And I love you.
Well,
I love you too.
You too. We have come to the point in the program now that we all have been waiting with much anticipation for. This is the Masterpiece Lyrics segment. Let me put these on so I can see things. I have 2 pages here. It's not that it's very long, it's just I had to print these with big font so I could see them better.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
shall we begin?
I have no idea where he's going with this.
All right. Well, me and Homer Jones and Big John Tally had a big crap game going back in the alley. And I kept rolling them sevens, winning all them pots. My luck was so good, I could do no wrong. I just kept on rolling and controlling them bones. And finally, they just threw up their hand and said, when you're hot, you're hot. I said, yeah. When you're hot, you're hot. And
Now
when
I
you're
know.
not, you're not. Put all the money in and let's roll them again. When you're hot, you're hot. La 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 la. La 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 la. When you're hot, you're hot. Well, now, every time I rolled them dice, I'd win. And I was just getting ready to roll them again when I heard something behind me, and I turned around, and it was a big old cop. He said, hello, boys. Then he gave us a grin and said, looks like I'm going to have to haul you all in and keep all that money for evidence. And I said, well, son, when you're hot, you're hot. He said, yeah. When you're hot, you're hot. And when you're not, you're not. You can explain it all down at City Hall. I said, yeah. When you're hot, you're hot. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. Well, when he took us into court, I couldn't believe my eyes. The judge was a fishing buddy I recognized. I said, hey, judge, old buddy, old pal, I'll pay you that $100 I owe you if you get me out of this spot. So he gave my friends a little fine to pay. He turned around and grinned at me and said, 90 days, Jerry, when you're hot. You're hot. I said, thanks a lot. When you're hot, you're hot. And when you're not, you're not. He let my friends go free and throw the book at me. He said, well, when you're hot, you're hot. I said, well, I'll tell you one thing, Judge, old buddy, old pal. If you wasn't wearing that black robe, I'd take you out back of this courthouse and I'd try a little bit of your honor on. You understand me, you hillbilly? Who's going to collect my welfare? Pay for my Cadillac. What do you mean, contempt of court? Judge! Thank you. That was released in 1971 by Jerry Reed. It hit the Billboard Hot Country 100 at #1, of course, and also crossed over and hit the Billboard Hot 100 at #9.
Incredible.
So that was our installment of Masterpiece Lyrics, and we hope that everybody is more refined today after that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jerry Reed.
Yeah. So with that said,
Last time I heard from Jerry, he was eastbound and down. And
last time I heard from him, he's passed away. So
yeah,
that's pretty much it. So with that said, I think we're finished with this program. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for hanging around and listening to our
craziness,
our foolishness and our frivolity, and listening to our
and you got a little history.
Yes, and our emails and
from
messages.
a band you probably forgot.
Yep. We ask you, if you want to, we ask you please like, share, and subscribe. Leave little comments down below the video here. We appreciate each and every one of them, and might have yours read one of these days. We are coming to you live. We are live recording this, of course, but we're coming to you from the Museum of Broadcasting and Technology, Radio and Technology, excuse me. They're at 1640 Florence Avenue in Huntington. We ask you to come up and see them. Website is mrtwv.org. Check them out and then come up and take a look at everything they got. They certainly appreciate that. Get a hold of Gary at rdwgmm@gmail.com, or you can message him on Facebook or X.
If you can find me.
Yeah, if you can find him. But that's pretty much every way you can get a hold of him.
Yep.
And with that said, we'd like to thank each and every single person who watches our videos and who subscribes and who sends us messages. We appreciate it more than you know. Do you have anything else to add?
Can't think of a thing. I've all petered out.
Okay. Well,
if that's a word I can use on the.
Now that we know that, thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you next time. Everybody take care. God bless. We'll see you.